I think it's being expedited. Just like I said, the president's cut a lot of regulations and stuff. He's really come up with some unique partnerships between our academic institutions, our government institutions like CDC and NIH and things of that nature, and the private sector. And he's taken the handcuffs off the private sector to allow them to really get aggressive about coming up with new ways to develop vaccines. So we're not going to have a vaccine until probably early next year, but I think we will have one early next year. I mean, it's possible that we could have one toward the end of this fall, but it's on its way. We'll have a vaccine for this virus soon. And I think the reality is, Chris, I've said this before, I think that a lot of people have been exposed to this virus that don't know they've been exposed to it. I think they've had it. If you tested everybody with the antibody test, a lot of people would show up as having antibodies to this virus, never even knew they had it. Maybe they got sick for a few days and just got well and moved on, or maybe they got no symptoms at all. But we are going to have some herd immunity that's going to be in place by the time the fall rolls around. And we're going to have a lot of these issues with our PPE and everything all solved. So if it does come back, I think it's going to go away at the end of the spring, early summer here. And if it does come back in the fall, we're going to be much, much better prepared to handle this. And it will not, under any circumstances, shut our economy down like it has now, because we just cannot let that happen again.
What's your take, Dr. Jackson, on these pharmaceutical companies? I never have really piled on them. I mean, quite frankly, I haven't done a lot of research into them. I know there's a lot of money involved. Hey, I take an allergy medicine, a nasal inhalant that I've taken for years to help with my hay fever and whatnot, that's $200-300 a bottle. I get it. I don't like paying for it either. We all cringe when we see the cost of medications, but it does take millions, billions of dollars in research and development, and a lot of these pharmaceutical companies have just been branded as the bad guys by some. And boy, now that we're looking for vaccines and treatments, I'm dang sure thankful for them, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And they do have a lot of R&D expenses, research and development. I mean, they really do. I don't know what the number is, but it's small. It's like 1 in 100 drugs that they try to come up with actually ends up being something that's useful, makes it to the market. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to use the money they make from that one drug to pay for all the money they spent on the 99 other ones that were in development that didn't make it. So we have to find a way to help them with the cost involved in developing drugs. We have to develop our drugs here. We have to make our drugs here. That's going to require the federal government to look into unique and innovative ways to prop up the pharmaceutical industry here in the United States so that it's profitable for them to do that. We can do that if we put our minds to it. We can. But, yeah, they do have a lot of research and development costs and a lot of overhead in that regard. But they make a fair amount of money as well. They may not be making as much in the future as they're used to making today, but they still have to make money like everybody else in life.
Well, sure, and that's the incentive to create these life-saving and life-altering drugs, no doubt about it. When you talk about you think we'll have a vaccine, it might be early next year before we do. Is that because it takes that long to develop one that works, or do they get one that works much more quickly than we think? It's just the approval process.
Some of it's the approval process, and they can come up with stuff and figure out that it works fairly quickly, but they have to do testing on animals before they give it to humans, just because there could be some crazy side effect that it has